you are the cure-all person in this town.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. Like,
and then one day, you get a knock on the door.
It's your son.
My empire.
just like crumbles.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Like everybody you cured instantly drops like a fly. They all die.
Like, the ailment comes right back.
This week's episode of Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal comedy podcast where we talk about all things spooky. I'm Taylor.
I'm Nick.
And we've got an interesting one for you today. We're going deep into the hills and mountains of, how do you say it? Appalachia. There's living in Appalachia. There's a lot of ways you can say Appalachia. I say Appalachian.
Appalachia.
That's a new one. I don't think I've heard that one before.
That's because I just made it up.
Oh, yeah. Appalachia. That sounds like a Spanish version. Appalachia.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Or an Italian version, maybe. It's more Italian. Appalachia.
Yeah. The Eastern Alps.
Oh.
This is all complete bullshit. Like,
yeah, the Blue Ridge Mountains and Appalachia is basically the gist here. But it's the art, I guess you could say, or the practice of granny magic, or Appalachian folk magic, or
root work.
Kitchen magic.
There's a lot of positive things that come from practices like granny witches, Appalachian folk magic.
That's how you learn about new science and new remedies.
Yeah, yep. And of course, we'll kind of get into the whole, as anything with the Christian religion permeating in everything.
You better tell me there's no Puritans in this story.
I didn't see any Puritans.
Better fucking not be.
I didn't see Puritans. I really didn't find like stories. I kind of just found more like historical tellings of what they would do, and then modern approaches to what we have today.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think that there was anything that they could have done for like severe ailments.
But like a common cold, they could help.
Mm-hmm. Things like that.
Hives, they could help with. Broken legs.
Colic. They delivered a lot of babies.
A lot of babies. The babies were a booming in Appalachia. Nothing else to do, I guess.
I bet you they could like brew a mean beer.
You knew they weren't brewing beer. They were making moonshine.
Well, yeah, shine. But in England, in Europe, that traditionally fell to the role of women back in the day.
Did it?
Yeah. Like before brewmasters were brewmasters, it was the wives that
before
were brewing.
It became the hipster thing to do.
Yeah, before like the men did. So like the women were the ones that figured out like how to like brew all these different ales, perfected it down, and then douchebag men kind of just showed up and, oh yeah, you know what? We can make money off of this.
Let's put a little orange peel in this beer and make it, oh, look at that. It's so much better. I don't know what you were doing this whole fucking time.
It just
looks like you needed a man's touch.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like awful. Yeah, so of course that was traditionally like a woman's like thing back in the day, and then of course like, we figured this out all our own. Like, no, you didn't. You took something and recycled it and make it yours.
It's not really in Appalachia, but I don't know if you've seen this new footage of the Bigfoot in Colorado River.
What, like another?
Yeah, it's pretty big evidence happening here. If you believe in that kind of thing, I'm giving Nick a second to watch this short clip of an alleged Bigfoot being spotted.
Sweet. I mean, it's big.
And it's hairy.
It's hairy, but so am I. And I'm not a Sasquatch.
But that's like the size of a tree.
Yeah, I mean, that's believable. Like, is it an actual Bigfoot?
Who's to say? Yeah,
sure, it's as big as a tree. It's hairy. It's walking like an ape. It looks like a Bigfoot. It's in Colorado.
So naturally, it's probably just a guy in a suit.
That's where I'm going to guess. That's what I'm leaning towards.
I seen that earlier today, and I wanted to get your unfiltered take on it.
In all seriousness, that's pretty dope.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. It still blows my mind. Well, we see it more with UFOs and unexplained phenomena like aliens and all that, where everybody has a camera now. So it's not surprising that we're seeing more instances of sightings.
Yep.
But AI is also AI.
I was going to say there's so many variables to that now.
AI is like advancing at like an alarming rate, so it's very hard to trust. Like,
I seen a video. It was completely AI generated of a alleged behind the scenes look at Avengers Doomsday, and it looked convincing as fuck. And I was like, I know this isn't real because I know this is AI. There's no way that they got this footage.
That was in the news actually the other day.
Was it?
I don't know if it's a lawsuit, but it was one of like the movie association things or whatever.
Screen Actors Guild or some shit.
Basically, one of those guys pretty much are demanding that there's a channel on YouTube where it's like generated trailers, like fan trailers or whatever, but they were using AI to create these like super realistic trailers.
Right.
But they had to either take all their stuff down or put in their channel
that it's AI.
That it's like AI generated or whatever, because the amount of views they were getting and making money off of it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And, but it's not like legit stuff.
Right. It goes back to your point that, like, even though everybody has a camera or a cell phone now, everybody also has access to some sort of rudimentary AI system. So it could possibly just be an AI generated Bigfoot walking around in the mountains.
Yeah. There's a lot in Appalachia, and we've covered a few things on our episodes.
Yeah.
But that is one thing or one piece of the cryptic folklore, spooky stories and stuff, where there's a lot with Appalachia that we just haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh man, it's the epitome of an iceberg.
From everything with cryptids to hauntings,
trail disappearances.
That to me is like one of the craziest ones.
The craziest ones to me are the ones where sometimes I'll see videos or something on TikTok. It's like, if you live in Appalachia, you know that if you hear your name being called to you, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
Also, don't leave your window shades open at night.
Because you're inviting something in if they can see into your home.
It's like there's a lot of weird shit,
like traditions and stuff. Well, it was funny. We were at visiting family, and she was saying that there was like a cheer competition or something that she was driving to, like somewhere like West Virginia, but like deep, like in the mountains of West Virginia. And they were on their way back out in the boonies down this mountain, pitch black, so there's no lights out there. Only lights are coming from like the car, and it was her, like her daughter, and like their friend or whatever. And they saw a lady in like white hair, bare feet, just walking on the side of the road, like pale white.
That's creepy as fuck.
And and they waited till they got to the bottom of the mountain, and then they were like, "Okay, did you guys see that?" They waited till they were like out back in civilization, because it's like that's the thing. You see something, you don't acknowledge it until you're like out and like back to civilization or whatever.
Okay.
But you remember that one time when we were kids, we were going to your house?
Dude, I remember that like it's yesterday.
Same thing, pitch dark, driving out there, and there was that dude on the side of the road.
To this day, that still gives me goosebumps to think about. Like I've got like chills thinking about it.
That guy was just like standing in the side of the
if it even was a guy, who knows? Like that was we passed by him so fast, and he was just standing there. I don't know if he was real or not, to be honest with you. Because I looked in the rearview mirror and I didn't see him, but
I saw he had like the glow. He had like I remember that he had like the glow, like kind of reddish glow in his eyes or whatever. He was just standing on the side of the road.
It was also like Halloween
or whatever. So that was the part of me was like, okay, there's probably a dude like either like playing a prank or something, or.
But man, that was just fucking creepy.
Just bizarre, just on the side of the road, pitch black, and then there we saw him as we were driving up.
But I mean, I live in Appalachia, so I mean, I'm literally less than a mile away from the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
So wouldn't surprise me that there's some, and that's right actually on where we seen him. Right down the road is the trail. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's Appalachia's a weird, creepy place. Happy to live there.
I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. I love this air. So yeah, there's like the creep aspect of it, but then what we're talking about today, Granny Witches.
Yeah, and what got you on this subject? Because before you mentioned it, I really didn't know anything about it.
Honestly, I was kind of just thinking about what can we do that's local, and I remember back in college, I think I took a course on like alternative witchcraft. It was like one of my sociology courses. And that's what it was. I think it was folkloric witchcraft or whatever, and that's what we looked at. We're like the granny witches of like Appalachia and like traditional like folklore magic.
Okay.
which at that time I'd never heard. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right.
And it kind of just stuck with me. So I was like, let's do an episode on folklore magic and, granny witches around Appalachia.
Folklore magic or folk magic or granny magic in Appalachia kind of stems from a boiling pot of Native American tradition, European tradition, escaped slaves coming up from the South. Yep. So African traditions. I mean, it's a big melting pot of all kinds of different practices kind of being melded into one, exchanging knowledge about seeds and berries and leaves and roots and different things that would help cure ailments and stuff like that. So by all intents and purposes, there's nothing magical about it, but it is a form of witchcraft to some people, I guess.
And to build off of that, witchcraft in the sense of course, again, with Christianity and spreading its roots everywhere, anything that was
no pun intended.
Outside, right? Anything outside Christianity was considered witchcraft.
Right, because God will heal you.
Yeah,
exactly. If you pray enough, God will fix it. This is a practical, no, we're going to take this into our own hands and try to do what we can to help you kind of thing.
Yep.
Instead.
Modern, kind of like a modern science approach before
modern science. Yeah.
And to also add to that, a lot of these granny witches, because they came from Christian backgrounds, the ones that came from Europe with like the Scots and like in England, like there's like the strong roots in Catholicism. A lot of them still imbued like the Bible into some of like their rituals and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, you'd have a granny witch that would come to your house, treat you for like a physical ailment. You have a cold, so they put sulfur in like your sneakers or some of your shoes. But then at the same time, they want to make sure that you have good health. So while they're treating you, they're saying like Psalms, they're speaking like verses out of the Bible.
Blowing smoke and stuff into your face.
And like, or saying like, prayers and leaving a Bible under your pillow to kind of ward off curses and things like that.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't see any of that stuff, but that's really cool.
So the history of Appalachia itself.
Oh, here we go. It was 6 million years ago.
When a meteorite struck the earth.
When the tectonic plates crashed into each other, forming the Appalachian Mountains.
Well, like you had mentioned, it's a combination of a lot of like different settlers that kind of came to this area. So we have settlers that are coming here in like the 17th, 18th centuries. Of course, the Native Americans are first. The Europeans are coming over here. You
got the Scottish, the Irish,
the
English,
Germans, Celts. They're coming over here. They already have their beliefs, so they're already imbued with Catholicism and Christianity. But of course, like in that video that we watched, this is like pre-modern. There's like no civilization here, so it's literally just you, your family, and what you have in your wagon. And
that's right.
You got to, that's right. You got to survive. So who do you kind of turn to? Well, you start befriending like the Native Americans. You start understanding like, okay, this, that knowledge that they've probably built over like hundreds of years or whatever. They can start using that to help heal you. And the deeper you go into Appalachia, it's like really freaking remote. So even as like modern society starts building up.
They're not coming up in the mountains.
They're not going up in the mountains, and it's probably like an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, how far away for you. So, blizzard storm comes through, you're not going to be like walking. You got to survive. So,
left to your own devices.
To your own devices with the knowledge that you've gathered from, like the Native Americans, from things that you've traveled and brought over. You kind of start to like just store like that knowledge.
Right.
And granny witches were more or less like the elders in like those communities where the ones that probably originally started with like that pool of knowledge continued to grow over the years. And that's how they were like essentially doctors in these like remote towns.
So I'd kind of seen that the first people to really start to practice this were going to be the Cherokee and Choctaw tribes. So they kind of, again, they're already here, but as European settlers are coming, they're learning from them modern medicines to an extent. I mean, what they knew. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, escaped slaves are coming up through the mountains as well, trying to get to the north and away from slavery, probably going up to Canada or something. Mm-hmm. And they might just be settling in Appalachia, because, again, nobody's going up to the mountains. It just becomes a distinctly American culture or religion, I guess, if you want to call it that.
It's not surprising that granny witches kind of became the embodiment of like the sage or the elder in these like communities. Mm-hmm. If you think of, Native American tribes, you have like the medicine man who's like the elder.
Right.
Who's probably seen some shit. You know, when things get crazy, you reach out to the medicine man, whether it's like a physical ailment, whether it's through like a ritual that needs to be done, you know,
a spiritual ailment,
something like that. You know, he's your go-to. Well, granny, which is kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, traditional granny magic included a lot of different practices. Common is like the dowsing. Have you ever seen that?
We did the dowsing up in Salem when we were on that ghost hunt, because that's a ghost hunting technique, but it's like 2 copper.
Yeah.
And if you're close to a water source, they'll start to cross each other. But I guess in the world of ghost hunting, I don't really know all that much about dowsing rods and how they come into effect. I guess because water intrinsically carries like magnetic properties.
Yeah.
So I guess the theory is that ghosts manifesting themselves also have inherent magnetic properties that dowsing rods can pick up on, or something along those lines. I'm not an expert, so I don't know.
I'll take it.
That's what I think. But yeah, we did dowsing. So yeah,
I completely forgot about that.
And they did cross at one point.
Yeah.
Because that's when they pointed to the one girl in the room that had like her grandmother try to talk to her.
Yeah, and it's all coming back now. We were at Salem.
That's all I know.
That's all I remember. But yeah, so there's like the spiritual element, what you're talking about, and then there's the actual practice for looking for water.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you usually use like a copper wire or sometimes a forked stick, I think is what it is.
Which I don't understand how that works.
I have no idea.
But
what's funny is Brittany's told me a story when she was a kid. One of their first homes that she like has a memory of. Yeah, the guy came out there with like dowsing rods, and apparently it worked. They were able to find water, and they struck water, and it was like, yeah, and it's a thing. Practitioners often tended to the needs of women. They worked as midwives and assisted in the birth of new babies, but could also be counted upon to provide herbal remedies if a young woman didn't want to have a baby or become pregnant.
Wow. So they were performing abortions before abortions were cool.
I think, there's that element too.
Or is that more like birth control?
I think it was more birth control.
Okay.
But I did see that if, you needed an abortion, like, Granny should be the one to call, and I don't know what they did.
We probably don't want to know.
No, don't want to know.
No, don't ask, don't tell.
Just like in areas that rarely had access to professional or medical care, the Granny Witch worked as the healer, crafting poultices and salves and teas with curative properties. Divination could be done in the remains of tea or coffee grounds in the bottom of a cup, which that seems to be like a common thing, like
right.
Reading coffee grounds. Like it's a big thing in Turkey.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you go get like Turkish coffee, and there's like people sitting in like the cafes. They're like, let me read your coffee grounds. And what does it look like?
Looks like coffee beans.
Like your future is black. Is
that good or bad?
No, this is not.
How you're alive right now is beyond me.
Seriously, like, it's like and like read your buddy's like future. You though, on the other hand, here you're doing okay.
You've got a milky chocolate future.
You got
it's not black like this guy.
Yeah. Like, okay, on average, is like mine like slightly better than his.
I'll tell you, I've not seen this before.
Don't go near water. That's all I'm saying.
Actually, just don't go near anything.
Just don't bathe. Don't shower. Don't eat.
Don't walk down the street. You're going to hit by a car.
Don't sleep. Don't even leave this cafe. Yeah.
Stand in this spot.
For the rest of your life.
Yeah, seeing they concocted treatments for bladder and stomach problems, relief for burns and warts, and herbal methods for contraception and abortion. Yep. Catnip tea was commonly used to prevent hives, and sufferers placed sulfur in their shoes to ease the flu, like you were saying.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was like the cold or the flu or something. Yeah. Okay. I'm not knocking it, but why? And it's not so much the capabilities of the sulfur itself. I just want to know what registers as, okay, you have a flu, let's take this element and stick it in your shoes.
Well, have you heard of like the onion on your foot? Like you put the onion, like if you're sick, you put a piece of sliced onion in your sock at night, and it supposedly helps you feel better because it's quote unquote sucking out like the toxins while you're sick. You've never heard of this before?
I've heard of the onion thing, but I don't understand.
Well, they say that
the science behind it.
I guess your feet have some sort of, I don't know if it's an energy thing or a natural thing in your body that it's that's where most of the toxins seep from or some shit like that. I don't know. We're going to have a doctor listen to this podcast and they're going to be like, what the fuck are these two morons talking about? What ChatGPT say?
No, this is an actual news article from 1918. Sulfur in shoes will prevent the influenza. Put a small amount of sulfur in each shoe every morning and goodbye influenza. This is the remedy offered to the people of Atlanta by a Georgia doctor who has been practicing in Dixie for 40 years. So this is 1918. Puts him at, but by the time this article was written, he's been practicing medicine for 40 years. So 08, 98, 78, 68. So since 1868, this doctor, which is
right
around
on track.
The time, like
Yeah.
it runs track.
He probably was practicing some granny magic up in the hills of Appalachia and then didn't tell anybody that when he came down.
Well, no, that's the thing, though. I did read that as well, that even when we hear the word granny witch, it didn't necessarily mean that it was like a woman that was doing it. Sometimes the men were also doing it as well, just like they're by association or whatever. But yeah, so this is the remedy offered to the people of Atlanta by a Georgia doctor who has been practicing in Dixie for 40 years.
I like how they have to say practicing in Dixie for 40 years,
and who went through the yellow fever epidemic in New Orleans in 1897 unscathed. His account of the successful trials of this remedy follows. In the early 80s, I moved to Louisiana to practice medicine and remained in the town where I first located for nearly 20 years. The town in which I located was in the southwestern position of the state and had large sugar and lumber industries. Therefore, I met many traveling men, and one in particular I remember from Memphis, Tennessee, who told me one evening that he had nursed yellow fever and cholera in all of its stages, had assisted in burying the dead, and the only precaution he ever took was to sprinkle sulfur in his shoes every morning during the epidemic, that he had never contracted the disease. Furthermore, everyone he told about it and who had tried it, not a single one had the disease. In 1897, we had an epidemic of yellow fever, and remembering what this gentleman had told me, I tried it, notwithstanding I had very little confidence in it. I shall never regret for having tried it, for I escaped the fever, although I nursed it in all its stages during the entire epidemic. Now, what has this to do with influenza? It has the same to do with it that it had to do with yellow fever and cholera. Kill the germ. I believe that when the system is thoroughly saturated with sulfur,
oh my God.
they just, okay, you know, the person like sitting there like, oh, like looking at his watch, like, so I cured it.
So what you're telling me is you're just ingesting sulfur. You're saturating yourself in the stinky salt.
Kill the germ. I believe when the system is thoroughly saturated with sulfur, as suggested, it will prevent the germers of any disease from attacking the system.
You'll also be dead, but, you know, that's the price.
It's fine. There's no doubt that sulfur will penetrate the system readily, for when one takes the sulfur in the system, it has a silver dollar in his pocket. It will be turned black, caused by the sulfurated hydrogen. I don't know what the fuck is that. Try it now.
This dude was roofed on cocaine.
Oh yeah.
Just absolutely.
Just taking like little shots of like cocaine water. Like,
he's like the guy. He was drinking Coca-Cola when it still had cocaine in it.
For
during
sure.
this interview.
For sure. Now it would be very little trouble to have the boys in the camps carry out this suggestion and thus break up the disease, which is causing so many suffering and great many deaths. It sucks that they didn't tell what his name was though.
He probably didn't want his name out there.
So yeah, I don't know. And even reading that super scientific and peer-reviewed article of how sulfur helps with influenza, still don't really understand like how. All it says is it kills germs, but he has like no proof of that.
So just to go back with what I was talking about, putting raw onion slices on the soles of feet is a folk remedy. So if that came from Appalachia, I don't know, but it came from somewhere. Often used during colds or flu, the belief is that it can draw out toxins and sickness from the body. While some attribute this to the odorous sulfuric compounds,
all right.
We're all coming together here, or the belief that they can cleanse the blood, there's no scientific evidence to support these claims.
Okay, so the next time we have a cold, we gotta try it.
So you put sulfur in your shoes and I'll put onions in mine.
Oh, I'll just find sulfur. Like,
come on, Nick, I have faith in you. I think you could find it if you really wanted to.
How do I isolate sulfur? I can get some rotten eggs. I mean, it gives off the scent of sulfur.
So yeah, I guess is the theory that the smell of sulfur is what's doing it, or is it the actual properties of sulfur itself?
Yeah, it's fucking working. I've been puking my guts out for 2 days straight.
Medical professionals generally recommend other treatments for colds and flus, such as rest, fluids, and over-the-counter medications.
What do I do? Go to the fucking doctor.
So yeah, well, this said that the particular use of onions for medical purposes has a long history, with some dating it back to the 1500s. So this might be before Appalachia becomes a thing, but it could be a European thing that came over, and then the Indians and Native Americans, African Americans, and Europeans were all just like, hey, onions, shoes, do it.
I kind of feel like the Native Americans probably saw that and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you eat these. You don't put these in your shoes. Yeah, just fucking raw dog.
Who's the guy in Holes that just raw dogged the onions?
Yeah, basically, yeah, just like, why are you putting your shoe? That's fucking dumb. To further speak on the actual folklore practices of granny witches, in 1908, John C. Campbell, who I'm just assuming that John C. Campbell was an author, maybe a researcher, doesn't really say what he was, but he did an ethnographic study, meaning he went to the mountains of Appalachia and found a community and just sat there and studied amongst them for X amount of time.
That sounds like a job that doesn't pay.
I mean, it pays in memories. It pays in experience. Have you ever seen like ethnographic like studies like of just crazy shit?
I can't say that I have.
Like there's this guy in like LA who just spent, it's like those documentaries where like Vice or whatever, where they just go and they just crazy shit. They just go spend time with these people. Like this guy's like, I followed around, like a cartel gang for like a month and just documented. They got like their faces covered up and shit and all that. But hey, just like, the ins and outs of like what it's like. You see some crazy shit. In 1908 though, so he went to Appalachia to conduct a study of living conditions in the mountains, and the result was a book called The Southern Highlander. According to Campbell, one may become a grandmother young in the mountains if she has survived the labor and tribulation of her younger, has gained a freedom and a place of irresponsible authority in the home hardly rivaled by men of the family. In sickness she is the first to be consulted, for she is generally something of an herb doctor, and her advice is sought by the young people half the countryside, in all things from a love affair to putting a new web in the loop.
Interesting.
Is that a sexual thing?
I really hope not.
If I go in like the deep mountains of Appalachia and I'm like, hey, what does it mean to put a new web in the loom?
Oh, that's just when somebody jizzes in your nose.
Speaking of jizz.
Oh, God.
Did you see what Disney did with the Star Wars music? Brittany sent me a video on this.
Oh, jizz music?
The jizz.
Yeah, they changed the name, didn't they?
Changed it to Jat, I think. I think it's called Jat now.
Fuck that. It's jizz. It's jizz in our hearts.
It's jizz. Like, yeah, we cannot, we will refuse.
We will never let that die.
We will not. Like, Disney does not understand the can of worms they've just opened up. We're asking the entire internet
to collectively,
as a whole,
accept that this music is now called Jath. Whatever fuck it is.
Because
jizz was just
is unacceptable. Now, to be fair, I don't think jizz was referred to as jizz back when George Lucas made this type of music.
I think it was. I think it was called that.
What?
I think in like the novelizations or something like, or in the scripts, he had it written as band is playing jizz music. Because George Lucas is a freak, man. That motherfucker was practicing some folk magic back in the 70s. I guarantee it. What the fuck noise was that?
That was Bruin having a wake up call. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, that's
man. I'd just love to see George Lucas in that writing room. All right, and then we pan over, and the Cantina band's playing jizz music, and the whole room's just like, oh, excuse me.
Action and like someone, and then, whoa, wait. We're not gonna just pretend you didn't just say that, and we're gonna ignore it and just move the fuck on with our lives. George, can you please tell me what jizz music is? Well, have you ever heard of adding a new web to the loom?
I can't say that I have. That's right, because you didn't go to the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains like I did. Back in 1962, I practiced with a granny witch named Eldridge.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny. Like, yeah. So if there are our listeners out there, please do not succumb to Disney's demands of being PC and having to.
Yeah, you let that jizz fly.
You let that jizz fly. Flow.
Let it flow. Let the jizz flow from every banquet hall to every pool table.
That's a fucking problem, bro.
Oh man, if we've got new listeners out there, this is just how it is. I don't know what to tell you.
You're along for the ride.
Yeah, if you made it this far, you're in it.
You're in it. Deep like the mountains of Appalachia.
Deep like the jizz in Appalachia.
Because of the religious environment. Back to what we were talking about.
Should we get back on track here?
Get back on track here. Because of the religious environment of the Appalachian region, in which nearly everyone was staunchly Protestant.
Staunchly.
Most of the people practicing what we today call granny magic would have disagreed that what they were doing was witchcraft. In fact, many charms and spells included invocations of psalms, prayers, and verses from the Bible.
Yeah. I've seen kind of the same thing. While sometimes associated with paganism, many Appalachian granny women were devout Christians, viewing their healing methods as an extension of their faith. Psalms, Bible verses, and Christian devotions were often integrated into their practices. Though it doesn't mean it's exclusively Christian, however, some practitioners may also incorporate animistic beliefs or connections to spirit of the land. So it sounds like it can be taken as paganism of a sort, but it all goes back to a Christian ideology. So there are a couple of other practices beyond herbal medicine. Granny magic encompasses a variety of other practices. As we mentioned, midwifery, which was assisting in childbirth. Omen reading and divination. I thought this was interesting. Basically interpreting signs, dreams, and using methods like dowsing for water. So we kind of discovered that, but I didn't know they were doing divination readings.
Isn't that what the coffee ground thing is?
It could be something similar. Just I guess every culture kind of has their own forms of divination. How many times have Mexican people seen Mary in their soft tortillas, in their tortilla shells?
It's
the Virgin Mary and their.
What is that called? No, there's like a term for that. I forget.
That's not divination. Like they're interpreting a series of little burn spots as the Virgin Mary on their tortillas.
I mean, maybe because like what you're describing, maybe it is. Maybe there is a thing where they like look at tortillas, or like
it could be some visual matrixing. You're seeing what you want to see.
Yeah, basically that, or like it's like your toast. Like how many times has somebody like made toast? They're like, oh God, that's Jesus in my toast. Or whatever. It's like that. And so when you say divination, I'm thinking more of like it's an intentional practice of a spiritual like advisor or something like that.
That could be like throw something on like you're in a tent and you throw something on the ground and you see a sign.
Like you're consciously going to a practitioner for the intent of them performing a divination
to read your future,
give you clarity or something like that.
Give you some good news, some bad news, maybe.
So like if my grandma were to come to me tomorrow and be like, Nikki, I looked at my tortilla and,
I seen your face on it.
Yeah, I would look at grandma and be like, what? No puede ser. Like, grandma, stop. But if she like sat me down and was like trying to like give me some spiritual, know-how and was like, hey, let's practice this or whatever. And like, here's what I found in my spiritual practice or my prayer today. I would take it a little bit more serious.
Right, right.
I think it's more.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Weatherworking. Apparently, they did a little bit of dabbling in weatherworking, which was basically trying to influence the weather patterns.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they did that. I don't really have any follow-up or any context clues on that.
You imagine just like waking up one day and like you need your crops to grow or whatever, so you go see like your local granny witch. You walk out there, you like tell her like, hey, we need to do something about the weather, and she just like walks outside,
cracks her knuckles, looks at the sky,
just starts chanting.
Hey, stop writing!
Just like just craziness. Wouldn't be surprised.
Shouts a mighty Thum at the sky.
Mm-hmm.
What was that Thum? What was the spell in Skyrim? The dragon tongue. You could change the weather.
I remember like
Yeah.
I don't remember like the.
You don't remember the exact verbiage,
But
Nick?
I remember, yeah.
You fucking baby.
There were so many of them that were so cool. That one saved my ass so many times though.
Oh yeah.
The weather one, just like.
Did it? It just made the game more enjoyable to me. Like you could just change the weather.
Because it was like an actual crazy blizzard storm that would show up, and it would like damage like your foes or whatever.
Don't remember that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like once you.
I just remember it's like you. Oh, I'm thinking of the clear skies one. Like you could you could just make it a clear day out.
That one, yeah. Okay, but the opposite of that one was the one where you call it a crazy blizzard.
Call it a storm.
Shit goes crazy. It's like you guys are done. It's like you can't catch me if you can't see me. And just run butt naked into the wilderness.
We also have protection and warding, using charms like iron nails or rituals to ward off illnesses, bad luck, or negative influences. I feel like this could kind of stem a little bit from voodoo.
Voodoo, or maybe like an offshoot of the Pennsylvania Dutch.
Oh,
folk
yeah.
magic.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about that, I think, on a previous episode.
So, we're like, what was it we talked about?
I think it was the Snallygaster we talked about.
Yeah,
that.
I was thinking the Jersey Devil, but yeah, the Snallygaster. So the warding off symbols for that.
Yeah.
Drawing, what was it? I can't remember.
The stars,
or whatever, like the symbols on the barns or whatever.
I know it was before it was what it is now. They would do like swastikas. Like that was that wasn't a thing for Nazis then. It was just a regular talisman.
Leave it to him, just fucking ruin it for everybody else. Like you have to be pretty fucking evil.
Dude, he was so evil he ruined a logo, a mustache, and a name. You can't have either of his names.
No, yeah, like no one has been named Adolf.
There's only been one man bold enough to rock that mustache since then. That was Michael Jordan.
Fucking Jordan. I remember when he like had that mustache on.
It was in the Hanes commercials.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this dude is fucking flexing. Like, what are you gonna say?
It's Michael fucking Jordan. That dude won 6 NBA championships.
You can't say anything. Like the man's gonna do what he's gonna do.
Yeah. He's selling some soft ass cotton t-shirts.
But I will say this: even though he did that, no, it didn't catch on.
No, thank God. Thank God.
It didn't catch on. Nobody was like, "Oh, Michael, I love you, but damn!"
Because nobody's gonna call that the Michael Jordan mustache.
No. It's forever going.
No,
down.
The Jordan stash. Yeah, it's always the Hitler stash.
It will always be the Adolf. Like,
yeah. They also talk out ailments, a practice where specific words or chants are used to alleviate conditions like burns or fevers. I was actually listening to someone. It was a podcast I was listening to in research of this. She was talking about, I guess she kind of grew up in that environment a little bit. And one of the things she said, one of the town elders, like her friend got sunburned or something. Yeah. So she's like, oh, go into the water after the sun goes down and it'll take the burn out. And apparently it worked.
I also saw a thing where they would chant at the burn, like prayer to the burn.
Okay.
To get the burn to go away.
Interesting.
Is another like approach that I saw for burns.
She was also saying, I don't remember the ailment that she had, but it was some sort of sickness and it was really bad and it was been going on for like a week or so. And apparently the only way to cure this ailment was to find a person who has never seen their father's face. And then they blow into your mouth and you're supposed to be healed.
I'm going to need you to repeat that and so I can process what you just said.
Yeah. So this ailment requires you to seek out a person who has never seen their father's face. And then they blow into your mouth and you are supposedly healed. She said that it worked. She said that 2 days later she was fine.
I want to know what the ailment was. I want to know, who did you find that was like, I've never seen.
It was like a priest or a priestess or a priest, someone in her community that had never met her father.
Can it be the same person each time? So if you get this ailment that she had
more than once
by a different person, can you be known as like the fatherless no guy? You know what I mean? So I get a knock on my door. I've never met my father or my parent or whatever. I get a knock on the door at like 2 a.m.
Hey, buddy, I need you to blow in my mouth again.
Yeah, I got the thing. Oh, God,
all right, see me in 2 days. Make sure you're good.
Drink this, I'll come back in 2 days. Like it, or are there other guys, like other
Doesn't specifically say it's a guy or a
No,
woman.
no. I'm saying like now that I've like cured.
Oh, now that
ailment
your mouth has been blown into.
by me, who I've never met. Like if someone else comes up, it's like you gotta find somebody.
Are you saying that you blowing into this guy's mouth to cure him of his ailment, that you can't do it to somebody else?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You only get a one-time use?
Yeah, because
I think that, I mean, unless you would meet your father, then I feel like your powers are gone, but it's not like a limited thing.
Yeah, because if they're like, you need to go find someone who's never met their father.
Imagine,
yeah.
Imagine you have the most booming business. You are the cure-all person in this town.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah.
And then one day, you get a knock on the door.
It's your
son. No! My empire.
just like crumbles.
Yeah.
What have you done?
Everybody you cured instantly drops like a fly. They all die.
Like, the ailment comes right back. Just like warts.
It's the lost colony of Roanoke all over again. This entire civilization gets wiped off the map.
Everybody's just like a plague instantly. It's like, yeah, wow, you got a booming business. Yeah, the only thing that can make this go wrong is if my father shares. But you wouldn't know it's your father though
until he tells you. Hey, hey, I'm your dad. And like he looks like you, and you're like, well, I can have reason to believe this actually is my father.
I'm gonna check.
Like if your dad walked up to you and you had never met him before, would you like know that he was your father?
Probably not. He look more like my mom.
That's true. I would say the same thing.
If
my dad told me that he was my dad, I would be like, no, you're not. I don't look anything like you.
Yeah, I look more like my mom. And Jordan looks more like my dad.
Oh, Jordan is like a spitting image of your dad.
So like if the roles were reversed, and be like, yeah, oh okay, that makes sense. But yeah, no, if he showed up and be like, I've never seen you a day in my life.
You're not my real dad.
Yeah, if I continue to deny it,
that opens up a new can of worms of like, what if you had a stepdad, but he was more of a father figure than your real dad ever was? Does that count?
I don't think so.
Doesn't have to be biological father.
Yeah, or
but like you had technically a father. Like, what if you were born and your real dad left, and then you get a stepdad at like 2, and that's the only dad you ever remember?
I feel like it's like a permanent failsafe. Like you can lock that in place.
Like you'll never lose your powers. Like you
like,
still have the power
it's
because
it's a cheat code system at that point. It's kind of like it's like broken. Like you'd like jailbreak. Like it's like
you entered up, down, left, right, triangle, square, X, left, right, down.
And at that point,
and gave you a God mode.
What if you have amnesia?
Oh.
So like,
but then you would forget that you were ever a healer in the first place.
Well, no. Like you don't forget, because I mean, there's different. Like it's a spectrum. So like more severe cases you can't remember shit, but then like there's certain things.
Selective amnesia.
Yeah, whatever. So you forget who your father is. Does that reinstate the cure? So if I come to you and like my arm is broken and like chopped off or whatever, and I get cured and it grows back overnight. Okay, you meet your dad. Oh God! And you wake up, my arm falls back off. But then the healer has amnesia, or maybe they just do some crazy drugs and they forget who the dad is. As my arm grew back,
and like you're just laying in bed, and you're like, man, I really miss my right arm right now. I'd be doing something in his bed right now if I had this right arm.
Like scratching my back. Just. I need to know the deets.
I think you're overthinking it.
You're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right. It's not that.
It probably is like a common like cold that they're just blowing into the mouth.
Yeah.
And you're going to get over it anyway. It just happens that they blew in your mouth and you got better.
Probably because they spread the germs and you now have immunity because like swapping spit and passing it off. These are the questions that keep me up at night. The technicalities.
I'm glad that's what keeps you up at night. Not the things that live in Appalachia. It's the technicalities of granny magic.
Oh, no, that makes sense. Like, oh, yeah, that's Sasquatch. Like, I can explain that.
I would say something in Appalachia would kick the shit out of Sasquatch.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, that's Mothman. I can explain that.
Even Mothman. I think some things in Appalachia are just things you don't want to fuck with, like demonic spirits. Wendigos.
Skinwalkers.
The Appalachian. What was like the big thing that was kind of going around a couple years ago, like Appalachian. almost like feral men, like feral tribes of people that live in Appalachia.
Yeah, okay, I saw that.
Sorry, we're gonna get a little sidetracked here off the granny magic. If you're still looking for more granny magic, we'll circle back. But
I saw that, and I never really looked into it further than what it actually was. I heard that there were people disappearing on the trail, like trap doors. So these like feral people living in the mountains, having like and hikers were going missing because you'd fall into like a trap door.
The scary thing is, I absolutely believe that that's a thing.
I would not be the least bit surprised.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the hills have eyes kinds of shit.
Like, the reboot of Friday the 13th, like Jason just being a... Have you seen the reboot, like the 2009 version? It's a great movie. One of my favorite Friday the 13th movies. But he's basically an amalgamation of everything from the previous Friday the 13th, except he's not dead. He's a regular guy, but he's like a trapper or a hunter in the woods. And basically he's rigged all of Camp Crystal Lake with like little booby traps and drop floors and stuff like that. And he uses a tunnel system underground to pop up, and that's how he, quote unquote, teleports places. I could absolutely see somebody living in Appalachia with that kind of a setup. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, like a real like demented serial killer or something.
Redneck
like
dude, yeah.
Just fucking nuts. Like puts Leatherface to shame.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was like I remember seeing like videos and you would just hear random screamings and cries and stuff.
Yeah, just like,
and then they're like, all right, we gotta fucking go.
We gotta get out of here. It's like, it's coming out of the caves. Run, they're coming.
Yeah.
I remember that.
That would utterly terrify me. There's not many things I'm terrified of this world, but that would terrify me.
I think what makes it so scary is that because, like, with Sasquatch, with Mothman, with cryptids,
they're generally not out to harm you.
They're not out to harm you. We know that what they are, and we understand them to be creatures like that. It makes sense. That's a cryptid. That's a monster. That makes sense.
Right.
Whereas there's still a part of us that say like monsters aren't real, and we can kind of explain that away as fantasy. We can't explain away sadistic serial killers and
feral Appalachian
because
people.
People are real.
Yeah.
And crazy people are real. And
people that have lived off the grid for centuries could be real. I mean, this could be a family that lived in Appalachia in the 1600s, immigrated here or lived here beforehand, and they just kept having more kids. I mean, they would all be like inbred children, which is even more terrifying.
There was an X-Files episode about that.
Yeah. And they just have been a family of these people living up there.
Yeah, it was like a family of like inbred people, and like the mom was like, she didn't have any arms or legs.
Oh, God.
They kept like reproducing with like, it gets really fucking weird. And like, they're like going around this town like murdering people.
Ugh.
And they like live in this like decrepit house, and it's like been the same. And they're like just traveling around the country or whatever, like in like Appalachia or whatever.
Hollywood needs to make a movie about this. It'd be terrifying.
Isn't that what the Hills Have Eyes is?
To an extent, I think, yeah.
It's like, I thought it was like an inbred family. Like,
I never actually have seen the whole thing, I don't think. There was one movie that I seen that was like that, but I forget what it was.
So after you run into these people and you get your arm chopped off, you murder them,
and you escape.
You find the granny witch.
You find the granny witch, yeah. It's important to note that many southern Appalachians may not use the term granny magic or witchcraft themselves due to negative connotations. Instead, they might refer to it as doctoring or simply the old ways. So maybe don't find a granny witch. Just go find somebody that practices the old ways.
If I show up dressed up like an old money, like
well-to-do Gatsby boy,
drip,
they're like, you know nothing of the old ways.
Oh yeah, you're probably bitch slapping. You're like, oh, you pretentious bitch! Like, get out of here. You're not sick. Go drink your NyQuil.
Yeah, baby.
Give me that sulfur.
The knowledge of granny magic was largely passed down orally from one generation of women to the next, often within families. So there are still people that practice this to this day. So, I mean, and even some more well-known things like hot toddies can be traced back to granny magic. And if you don't know what a hot toddy is, it's whiskey, lemon juice, and like boiling hot water. It's supposed to knock the colds right out of you.
And there's an article called on the website called Folklife, where it kind of gives a modern interpretation of Appalachian folk magic.
Yeah, her name is Nikki Chester.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one. But she talks about it, how she learned from her grandmother. And back in the day, he said her grandmother was like a 4'11", like, you know, and would just take her and her cousins or siblings or whatever out in the forest and look for like, you know, herbal remedies and stuff. And then she continued to do the practice, and now I think she actually has like her own little shop where she creates salves and she creates like tinctures and things like that, and actually like mails them out to people who purchase them online.
Yeah, just to read a little snippet of that article. Despite her upbringing, Chester did not begin exploring this ancestral knowledge until her mid-20s. She started making salves and tinctures for families and friends, and 2 years later opened her business, Nikki's Nourished by Nature. Because cat food had become too expensive, she started out in a camper on her family's property, but as the number of herbs and spices in her rotation rapidly increased, she purchased a 12 by 40-foot tiny home to sit in her front yard. Her apothecary, as she affectionately calls it, is where she spends her days blending teas, drying herbs, and mixing salves to fill online orders and help the many people who come through her door. That's pretty cool.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
I think it's great that you can. And I've seen on TikTok too. There's a lady on there that I wouldn't consider it a granny witch. For one, she's like our age,
right?
But I could see
she practices the old ways.
The old ways. Or a lot of the things that she does, like if you blend this, with this or whatever, it's supposed to cure this, or this is good for.
I honestly should have asked my grandma before we recorded this episode if she had any. I'm sure she's not. I wouldn't call her a granny witch by any sense, but she grew up in this area all her life, and I'm sure her parents probably had some deeply rooted Christian values because she does. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there was some things like that.
My grandma has like some folk. I wouldn't say like folk remedies, but definitely some bizarre remedies for colds and stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh God, I hated getting colds. Not because it was
not because I was sick, but because of the stupid shit I had to do to get rid of it.
No, yeah, stupid shit. It was just her go-to was like a half cup, a little thing of cod liver, like fish, like. Yeah, it gets better. Cod liver. Onion, chopped up onion in
liver and onions,
and some other things she would throw in there, and I had to drink it, and I felt like that.
It made you forget that you were sick in the first place.
Yeah, it worked. It was like this will trust me. Like this cold's not going to feel like anything after this, and yeah, it's because I was so petrified.
Yeah.
Afterwards, that I didn't want to be alive for like 20 minutes. I remember I would like cry, please don't do it. Like, I'm not sick anymore. I feel better. It was awful.
All right. So kind of to wrap this episode up a little bit, it's important to remember that most people that would practice this don't necessarily identify with the term witch.
Yeah.
So as we were kind of saying, they practice the old ways. And since this is a deeply Christian kind of religion, in a sense, I mean, it's herbal remedies mixed with Christian values almost in a modern sense. Yeah. So, if you go back and listen to our witchcraft episode, but those two things can be kind of interchangeable, but like a modern witch now is definitely more nature based and more
spiritual. With nature,
right.
As opposed to
doing exactly pretty much what we just described Nikki was doing, making tonics and different potions, quote unquote potions, which are just remedies to help
herbal remedies and tinctures.
Yeah, just to help with everyday life almost. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to help fix a disaster like Nick's arm falling off.
Yeah, if your arm falls off, go to the doctor.
Yeah, don't find a person practicing the old ways.
I mean, it's cool if you do.
Yeah,
no judgment.
They might stop the bleeding.
Yeah, but really, I would go see it.
I would consult a doctor in an actual medical hospital.
Bring the granny witch with you.
Sure, it might learn her a thing or two, as they would say.
Yeah, but generally speaking, for broken limbs, lost limbs, we want to seek out medical professionals.
Yeah. It's also interesting that they would use these. You always hear about some of these families, and I think that there was an episode of like Grey's Anatomy or something like that, where the family's son was in like this fatal car crash, and they take him to the hospital and like, we can save his life, but he needs a blood transfusion. And this family's so set in their Christian ways, they're like, yeah, we can't let that happen because this is God's plan.
Oh yeah, there was an episode about, it was, I think, like a Mennonite family,
mm-hmm.
and basically along the same lines. Like she's getting the medical treatment, but essentially they were going to shun her
right
afterwards because
mm-hmm.
she
If he gets this blood transfusion, he'll never be open or welcome into the gates of heaven because he was not pure anymore or something along those lines. So it's interesting to me that as deeply rooted in Christian values as these quote unquote granny witches are, they're still kind of like open to scientific method. So,
I mean, that's how nursing came about. Mm-hmm. Nursing was the same way. It was like, but prior to, recently up into the Civil War, doctors weren't washing their hands, and Florence Nightingale was like, "Hey, we should probably start washing our fucking hands."
Right?
It's like you've delivered 12,
you've sawed off 13 legs with that saw. Maybe wash it.
Yeah, you're not wearing gloves. You've delivered 13 different babies with blood from every single one of these. What do you mean you don't understand why people are getting sick?
Yeah,
and it's crazy that it's a modern thing. It's only 130 years ago.
160.
Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, that's where all modern science came from anyways. It was people who went against the church and was like, okay, we're gonna test this. And, of course, the church was like, oh, that's witchcraft. We can't do that. So,
hang them. Burn them.
Burn them, yeah.
Exile them.
I'm not knocking religion or anybody's spiritual
beliefs. Right.
But, I've always said, imagine how much further along we would be as a society if the church wasn't the church, the way that it did back in the day.
Because what was it? The Dark Ages? That was basically set science back 1,000 years or
something
so.
Like that, yeah, whatever. It was just because it was a method of control, and blacksmiths were considered wizards or whatever because they're what are they doing in that cave?
My God, they're turning something from ash into a solid steel.
Yeah, it's wait, hey,
witches.
Yeah, no, we could use this for self-defense. You have a warring nation over there that wants to kill you. No, burn him. I think we should listen to what this guy's saying.
No, we can't.
Nope.
He's performing witchcraft in his dungeon.
Hang him. But that's got to be a whole other.
Take him to the streets and draw and quarter him. I will hear nothing else.
That's an episode we need to do.
Medieval torture.
Well, that too.
The Dark Ages?
The things that they would do to prove somebody was a witch.
Oh, yeah, like Monty Python-esque.
It's throw her in the water. If she breathes underwater, she's a witch. If she doesn't, well, she's not.
Okay, but is there maybe a better method than that? Not that I can think of.
Are you sure?
So if we light her on fire and she doesn't burn, she's a witch. If we light her on fire and she does burn, she's not a witch.
I'm beginning to sense a pattern.
Basically, you're going to kill this lady either way.
It's kind of a lose-lose. Nope, this is the only way. Well, how do you know? Well, because, God told me.
I had a vision.
And I had a vision, or I wrote a book about it. I'm a professional. Did you read my book? Go read my book.
It's called Basic Theology by Adolf B. Hitler.
Yeah, right. Just this crazy shit.
Crazy shit. Any closing thoughts on witch, granny magic or folk magic?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I think it's dope. And more power to the people that are still practicing this today.
Yeah.
Just to even keep the tradition alive. I think it's so cool and awesome that something that started out as an isolated community, and a lot of it's just been, verbal, word of mouth, kind of
passed down through generation to generation.
Which
kind of reminds me of Hey Arnold.
Kind of sucks though, because
this is a story that's been passed down from kid generation to kid generation, and our own Gerald has the tale.
It's of course, because I'm assuming it's starting to die out.
I'm sure.
The only thing that we have are the Nicky Chesters that are
right.
keeping it alive. So more power to those people, and that's so awesome. And I kind of want to try some of this thing. The next time I have a cold, try one of the tinctures or salve or something like that, a burn.
It would definitely be cool to find. I mean, this seems to be more of a southern Appalachian thing, down Tennessee, North Carolina, those kind of areas, as opposed to where we're at in Maryland. Mm. But if you are a practicing old ways practitioner, I worded that weirdly, but if you practice the old ways and you're local to Maryland or West Virginia or Pennsylvania, we would love to hear from you, and we would love to find out what got you into doing this. If it was passed down to you, or if you discovered it through other means and then just kind of took up the mantle on your own to keep this fascinating piece of culture alive.
I'm gonna try the sulfur thing.
Do it.
I just gotta find sulfur first.
Hey, it should be easy to find. You could probably get it at like Dollar General.
Maybe.
Go down to the job lot.
Yeah, find it there. That store's bizarre. Like
I haven't been in it yet.
It's so misleading. Like
Why?
The job lot, you think you're going there to like apply for jobs.
Oh, okay.
It's like a staffing agency.
Well, I mean,
and you get in there, they got pools.
Well, I mean, like it's a job. Oh, this is a job I got to do. I gotta fill this pothole in my driveway.
Is it?
That's a job.
Okay, that's a stretch.
I gotta fill this hole in my yard. It's a job. I gotta put this pool up. That's a job. I'm on the job. I'm on the job.
Yeah, I guess.
I gotta mix up a new tincture. It's a new job.
I would not use ingredients from the job lot for your tinctures, like in your potions.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Shadows and Sightings. We appreciate all the support. We're seeing some new listeners showing up, so if you are a new listener, thanks for joining us.
Hell yeah.
Go back and listen to our old episodes if you wish. The early episodes are a little rough. We were still figuring things out, but
I think we found our groove finally.
I think we have. Just be wary if you're starting on episode 30, whatever this is, 30-something, 35. Just be careful going back to like episodes 1 through 10. They're a little rough, but we got there. We're getting there. We're still learning all the time. So thanks for joining us on this weird journey that we're on, talking all things spooky. But you can find us on Instagram, Shadows and Sightings Pod, Facebook, Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast, or send us an email, shadowsandsightings@gmail.com. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. I've had some people ask me about Apple Pods still, and
all right,
we got to try to figure the thing out, but
because Apple's being
so I'll reiterate this fact that Apple has a known technical issue that is keeping podcasters like us and many others from getting onto their platform. So we're still figuring out how the hell we're going to do that. But one of these days, we're going to get there. But you can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Podbean. We're on pretty much any other source of podcast streaming that you can find, except for Apple. So, but we're getting there. We have merch too. If you want to don some cool Shadows and Sightings merch, go to Printful. We'll drop the links in the show notes. Go get yourself a T-shirt for the summer months. We gotta get some summer shirts. Some
tanks.
Yeah, I want Lurk in like an 80s slasher summer camp vibe.
Well, that'd be cool.
Like a white ringer shirt. Yeah. We'll get Brittany to work on that. Yeah.
She's been asking. She's like, give me some ideas to draw.
Yeah. So maybe we'll work on some 80s slasher shit, because I think that would be kind of cool. Perfect for the summertime. It's gonna be a cryptic summer. So thanks for being here. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you all next time when we talk about all things spooky.